All right, let's take a look.
All right. Let me see. Shoot. Oh, shut up. Okay, cool. All right. Hey, Blake, you ready to make this time count?
Yes, I am, man.
Awesome, brother. So I carved out 45 minutes for us. So here's how this is going to go. I'm going to get a clear picture of, kind of where you are, where you want to be, and kind of what's holding you back, right? So if I see that this is the right fit, I'm going to walk you through the exact process that our top clients are using in order to scale fast. Okay, fair enough?
Yep.
All right, cool, brother. So just curious, what was it about Ryan
Nice, great job. Frame, perfect, clean, smooth, trustworthy. Great.
that kind of caught your attention, brother?
Man, it's just really, it wasn't really anything specific. I've just been looking for a little bit different of an opportunity, a little bit different approach to getting into sales, and I just felt like this would be the first step into getting in.
Okay, so first step into getting into sales, and you thought that this would be like a super, super good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so what do you currently do for a living then, brother?
So right now I work 2 jobs. I work as like a jump monitor at a jump park, and then I do catering as well because I go to university.
Oh, you go to university. What are you studying?
So I go to UVA and I study electrical engineering.
Nice, good job. Right. Ask about university immediately because clearly what he's doing while he's in university, that's not his career path, right? So we don't want to focus on that too hard right now, right? We want to dive more into why is he actually looking into something else if he's in university right now, because that would indicate a future career path, right?
Oh, snap, that's cool. That's what my cousin's doing right now. How do you like it so far?
I don't mind it, but like
The math?
the more I get closer to getting into a job,
Yeah.
I just feel like it's so much a busy work and like it leads into an office.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could work in an office job.
Is it? Yeah, no, I hear you. Is an office job something that you're like? Is that something that kind of like scares you a little bit to be in an office job?
Definitely.
Oh wow. What's so scary about it for you? That you're just like, oh snap, like.
Great job. I love the assumptive labeling there. Like, is that something that scares you? An office job, right? Because he said, "Oh, I can't see myself working in an office job," right? That indicates a negative response to it, right? So let's immediately pounce on that and ask. I love it.
I guess be like away from everybody, you really on somebody else's time. You don't really have any time for yourself or for your own family. You're dependent on someone else's will, which I don't really find too enjoyable.
Yeah, I don't think it's enjoyable at all, right? Like you gotta kind of raise your hand and ask your boss if you can even go to the restroom. You're a grown man, right? It's like, yeah, bro, I hate that too. And let's go back to that catering.
Nice. Slight humor, right? Relatable, easy, likable, but at the same time signals a little bit of a deeper problem there, right? You got to ask, raise your hand to go to the bathroom, right? It's like, ugh, nobody wants that, right? But you joked about it, so it wasn't off-putting. I love it.
And stuff. The whole electrical engineering, that's what you're kind of doing. How long have you been doing that for? Like your job that you're doing right now?
So the job that I'm doing right now, I've been at Jump for about 4 years since I was in high school because I was there when I was playing sports, and then catering I've been there for about 2 years, and I'm a junior in university right now. So.
Oh wow. So okay. So it's been a little minute. What got you into that originally?
I guess out of school I had pressure. I had good grades in school, so I guess I kind of had pressure to take it further. I just felt like I could do more with my time and just settle for like a trade job. And I went to MTC actually for trade and electricity.
Oh wow. Oh, so you went to so you actually like were thinking about going on that path originally?
Yeah, I was thinking about going on trade.
Oh wow.
And
what changed?
I don't know. I got to the environment. I just didn't think it was for me. I was good at it. I was good at electricity, so I just figured I was good in school, good at electricity. Might as well take it the next step because I could have had that potential.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. That's okay. I got you. So what's got you looking into? I know we talked about like catering and kind of everything that you've done. It sounds like you've been pretty occupied the last few years. What's got you looking into something new, brother?
Just that fear of.
Great job, ARQ, right? And getting into the deeper meaning here. Like, why is he actually looking into it, right? We already covered a couple of the base level things. Can't see, office job, right? Don't focus at all on what he's doing for work now because that's obviously not, the path that he's going to continue down, right? So I love it.
Getting into something I really don't want to be doing because I don't want it to affect, not just me, but like my family in the future. I don't want it to like creep up on time. I mean, obviously the money's good, but ultimately, in my perspective, money isn't what would bring me happiness. Being with my family and living with my family would be what would bring me happiness. And I just feel like the environment that this brings, like high ticket sales, like the openness of it, the ability to do it online, make about around the same amount of money if you're good at it. It's just so many more benefits than compared to go to university, do a bunch of busy work, and then get a job like that. So.
Yeah, brother, that's completely fair, and that's a really a man who has good intentions and who wants to take care of his family, lead them, and kind of not be stuck into that little cubicle and you got to raise your hand and use the restroom. You're all in your little cubicle. That's fair, bro. That's completely fair. It just sounds like you want freedom, right?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so I like the joke again to refer back to that, but also to press on that pain point more. And then I really like let's really bring him up on the things that clearly matter to him a lot and are honestly classic traits that would be commendable, right? He said family matters to him, spending time, being there, having a purpose, right? That matters, and that's especially for this avatar who you're speaking with here, that's something that he's going to take a ton of pride in, right? So we want to really hone in on that because that's the driving force. He even said the money, it's like if he can make the same amount of money, that's great, right? But it's not about just the money. He's not here because he thinks this is the get rich quick. He's here because he wants to capitalize on his time with his family in the future, and that's the archetype that you're working with here, right? So we want to really keep pushing on that. You did a nice job.
At the end of the day, that's what it is. You're looking for some type of freedom. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's completely normal, brother. So, are you looking to do this kind of solo, or you got a spouse or anything, partner involved? You got your Bonnie and your Clyde. Like, are you a team, or is it just you solo? You're
right now, it's me
on solo.
Nice. I love it. You do a lot of this where it's just like little key indicators of like, how to just kind of soothe over some of the harder questions, right? Because it's it's an important question, but it is a salesy question of like, who else is involved in making this decision, right? Because that indicates it's a big decision. That indicates that it's a financial decision, right? So asking about who else is involved, that can trigger a little bit of sales resistance, right? So you do a great job, and you just naturally do this because of your ARQ abilities. Where you made a joke, you're like, oh, a little Bonnie and Clyde, right? It's like that just goes over really, really well, right?
All right, brother. Okay, cool. Is this something you're actively looking to fix, or just kind of explore ideas, kind of down the road and everything?
I'd say actively trying to fix. Yeah.
Okay, so actively trying to get out of the situation and all, not that cubicle, right? Okay, so it's something that's active. You're actively trying to get out of.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I got you. So, do you like what you're doing now? Do you even like that at all?
Last semester I really had like a rough time, like a rough go at it, because I went to BRCC before this, and I went to UVA, and then like that pressure got to me a little bit. But when I started the classes, I just really felt it. Like I don't know, it just felt like I didn't want to be there. This semester has been a little bit better, but I still feel like there's other opportunities out there, and I might as well look into them.
Oh wow! So it sounds like you're kind of like a wolf. So it sounds like you're a wolf amongst sheep, basically. Starting to get that feeling like you're inside class and you're like, shoot, do I really actually belong here? Is that the feeling that you're kind of feeling? Yeah, but I got you. And a lot of people in your shoes kind of feel that way. Kind of like, I know you've ever seen The Matrix, but when they're kind of like, when Neo's getting like ripped out and stuff, you see things for what they are, right? Yeah. And it seems like you found yourself in that situation. So that's a completely fair and, normal feeling for someone such as you who's seeking those freedoms, right? For your family. So yeah, no, I got you. So
yeah, I love it. Essentially what you're doing with the whole frame you took, right? The analogy of, a wolf, right? And then also, the analogy of comparing him to the movie, The Matrix, right? Of, you see behind the curtain, right? You see things for what they really are. You have a good idea of who you're speaking with here at this point, right? And so now you're in a position where you're able to make these assumptions, right? And so obviously, we never want to assume anything, right? But this isn't just generalized assumptions that always backfire. These are assumptions based on data that you've already gathered, right? So now you're labeling him. And that's what we want to do. We want to then, once we have, key characteristics that we know are going to be the determining factor on whether or not somebody closes, we want to then label that person harder and harder as that action taker, right? We want to figure out what's their archetype, what actually drives them, and then we want to label them and continuously reward that good behavior, because that's going to push them to actually make the decision that's best for them, right?
Yeah. So what do you wish, with everything I know you said that you kind of don't really like, was that you said you weren't too fond of what you're doing right now?
Yeah.
What about it do you wish was different? What do you wish was different about it?
I don't know. I think purpose is what I wish was different about it. I feel like schoolwork gets like very congested with things like just to build pressure on you and get you ready for work life rather than just teaching you what your job is actually going to be about. I just feel like they fill it with a bunch of filler. Yeah. To make it worth the money.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, no, that's completely what the system is, my friend. When you're stuck inside of those things, like it's kind of like when you finish high school, or when you finish high school, it's kind of like it's a business. You got to think of college as a business model. These people are just trying to get you in and trying to get you out. So the next generation of students kind of come in. So that feeling of like, oh man, it's feeling like just like your homework is, you're like, am I ever going to really need this? Or is this like something that's going to make me $10K a month? Like you don't feel maybe like it's providing you with some sort of high value skills. You feel like it's just kind of like do it down, turn it in, do it down, turn it in, and you don't feel like you're kind of grasping anything. Is that a feeling like you're familiar with?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like purpose, right? But you feel like you're just writing off, checking off tasks, but nothing's actually sticking.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro, that's completely fair, bro. And black sheep, like
yeah. So what you're doing right now, it requires a very high level of emotional intelligence, Nate. And like, dude, listen, I want to give you like negative feedback here. I don't have any right now, because right now this call is going perfectly. It is. And it's because, you know exactly who you're speaking to, right? You know exactly the route that you're pursuing to, get Blake to actually take action, right? You know the archetype. And now, you do a good job using that high level of emotional intelligence to paint a scenario. Like, that whole situation, that little tangent you just went on there, right? About, what college really is, right? All of that makes total sense for you to describe that scenario, because everything he just told you is exactly describing his feelings towards that type of scenario. He didn't explain it that way, but his feelings that he expressed to you obviously depict the scenario that then you just painted for him. So essentially what you've done here is this is a very high level of taking in information, actively listening, and then regurgitating it back in a different framework. So to Blake, it almost appears as if you're giving him a new perspective, but it's not coming across as you presenting a brand new perspective to him. It's coming across as you just listened exactly to his feelings about his current situation. So that's why every time you do something like that, it's going to land so hard. It's like fucking hitting them right on the point of the fucking head of they're like, holy shit, this guy knows exactly what I'm feeling, right? I want to give you feedback and tell you you're doing bad, dude, but you're not.
Yes. I was the same, bro. I was doing uni, I was doing community at college, and it was a little different. I went to business. I studied in engineering. Actually, I was doing electrical engineering at first, and I had swapped out because I didn't want to do it. That was my dad's dream, right?
Yeah.
And I realized it was something I didn't want to do. I felt that same feeling, Blake, the same feeling that you're feeling, almost like a hole in your heart, a gap in your mind, and just an emptiness all around, like literally a lost sense of purpose. Brother, I did not feel purpose whatsoever, and it wasn't until I had decided to take a leap into kind of something like you're doing right now. Like you're going to take a leap into, the other side, right? It's kind of like you jump into the unknown, my friend, and it can seem scary at times, but what's more scarier, Blake? Staying in that same spot, the cubicle, like later down the road, 5, 10 years later down the road, when, you got your son on your lap and he's asking you, hey, dad, have you ever tried to ever do anything risky? And you're just thinking back on that one time you didn't, get out of that little cubicle. That's probably, it's a bad feeling, bro. And a lot of people do get stuck in that way. And I'm glad, bro, you're pretty much, you're a pretty courageous person already. I can tell you're pretty courageous, bro, for even thinking of something such like this, right?
Okay. So, that was extremely high level. That was what I would call, and I love this guy, that is the Andy Elliott frame that you just took, right? Where, you said, 10 years go down, right? And, you have your little son sitting on your lap and he says, hey, dad, why didn't you ever try anything, right? And you're going to have to look at him and say, I was too afraid, right? That's very much a high conviction, consequence frame, completely rooted in his deepest motivation that he mentioned to you earlier on the call here, okay, where he described, I want to have time for my family, right? So what you just did was you took the highest conviction framework of a consequence that ties directly into what he mentioned was most important to him. 10 out of 10, Nate, 10 out of 10. Truthfully, 10 out of 10. But here's where I have to cut you off. What you needed to do after you asked that is let it land harder. So cut it off, right? Now, I love where you're going. You're saying, you can tell, you go into that, frame of labeling again. And that's huge. Like, that's great. I love that. But we needed to cut it off after that very, very heavy, high conviction, Andy Elliott frame of your kid looking at you 10 years down the line and saying, hey, dad, why didn't you ever try anything, right? And for this archetype, it's like that just boom, boom, that fucking smacks someone across the face, dude, right? But what you needed to do was cut it right there and just ask him, how would that make you feel? Boom, let it land, right? Because when you keep talking, you go into now, I can tell, now you're going to go into an uplifting frame, right? You're going to label him as a courageous person, right? The problem is you didn't let that line, that whole, consequence frame, that high conviction frame that you just took on him with it, the possibility of his future son, challenging him essentially on why he didn't try anything. You didn't let that land. And it was so perfectly executed. It's a shame. Because like that right there, like fucking that like closes the call there essentially, right? So we need to let that land. And so there's a problem that I had oftentimes where, you have a very nice way of speaking. I had a very nice way of speaking. I still have a very nice way of speaking. And I, as egocentric as it sounds, I know that you feel the same way. You like to hear yourself say something real fucking smooth like that, right? Because you can deliver it. And it feels good when you really just drop like some bombs on people. I was the same way. So just be mindful of don't hesitate on cutting yourself off. You're never going to be speaking not enough on these calls. I promise you. That's never something you have to worry about. What you do need to worry about is potentially speaking too much. And I don't want you to take that feedback here and be like, oh no, I'm talking way too much. You're not at all. For your style of sales, for the authentic voice that you have, it's very, very similar to mine. You want to rip and rip and rip, and you have very nice word tracks, and you have all these great examples, and your ARQ is phenomenal, right? Don't stop doing that by any means, but just when you drop certain bombs, actually let the bombs land, right? That was our problem on that high conviction, frame. We just didn't let it land. We immediately moved into, this next frame you're going to take where you label him as someone who's courageous and we uplift him. Let it land. Let him sit in that, right? He's going to agree with you. It was delivered perfectly, and it hit, his character archetype like square between the fucking eyes, right? He's going to agree. Don't worry. Don't have any fear of that, right? You know how to read, your archetype. You know who you're speaking with. So let it land, and then deliver this next frame of, I'm going to uplift you here. I'm going to label you as someone who's courageous, right? Because it's all highs and lows. It's where can you take this person on, the spectrum of emotions through the call? And you're someone who can really, lasso onto someone and basically wheel them around wherever you want, just because you have a nice way of speaking and you understand emotional intelligence. So that's my biggest feedback for you so far, is just let those bombs land and let the person process it. Because keep in mind, Blake is a smart guy, and Blake has a nice way of speaking as well. Blake has good emotional intelligence. So he's a good match for you, right? But you may speak with someone else, a different prospect on an offer that, you're selling for, and they might not have the same processing speed as you. So if you move on too quickly, you aren't letting those bombs really deliver that you're nailing so hard. And then you're going to wonder, you're going to be like, why couldn't I crack this person? And it's like, no. It's not that you didn't do enough. It's that you did too much without pausing and letting the person process, the bomb that was just dropped on them. So just keep that in mind.
Because the system will want to snap you back in, or maybe friends, or I don't know if you have friends or anybody telling you, hey, it's risky, right? So yeah, no, that's completely fair, brother. So what do you think has kind of held you back then? Like with getting that income, the outcome that you want, having the freedom and kind of just getting out of the spot. What do you think is stopping you right now?
I'd say like clarity of the path. I don't really done anything else besides this, so I don't really know where to go next. Also, like finance, I'm in school, so I don't really have a lot of money to throw around. So
yeah, no, that's completely fair. I know you heard that thing, like college students are all broke. Like, it's 100% true, bro. I did the same thing. I had like worked 2 jobs. I was, going to uni and all that stuff. I was going to college, and man, it was tough. I feel like I was working 2 jobs, but I still didn't have enough like money for anything, bro. I was buying books I didn't need, and just showing up and showing out, and it just wasn't giving, and it just wasn't giving, bro. I didn't feel no purpose. I didn't feel like it was actually doing something for me. I felt empty, man. And I did the same thing as you. I just searched. The Bible says, the part where God says, like, seek and you will find, knocking it will open. Yeah, I saw it. And I saw it really hard, bro. I tried real estate. I tried, I've seen some crypto, e-com. I tried everything. But it wasn't until I had took a leap, I was working 2 jobs. I switched that up, I quit. And then I just started my own business, doing door-to-door. That landed me into car sales, and the rest is history, right? But yeah, bro. And I was like 16, 17. I was 17, actually. 17 turning 18 because, college and all that stuff. I was the younger one. But it's that leap, right? So when it comes to that, why not just keep doing what you're doing, though? But I know we're talking about, the whole thing of, wanting freedom and all that stuff and like kind of what you don't like about it. But why wouldn't you keep doing it? Like, what is that?
I like the relatability, and you do a great job with, really relating with your own personal story, which is going to serve you super, super well. But on that one, we didn't really have a key delivering point at the end of it. So it was a little bit of a ramble on that one. You do a great job of that, though. So anytime, you're going to, do, a personal relate, right? Like a resonate, but geared towards yourself. Make sure you always have a stern point and framework behind it so that it hits really hard. Or else if it doesn't, the prospect may think you're just kind of talking about yourself, right? If it always can relate back to them at the end, that builds a ton of trust, because then they're like, oh, this guy's just like me, right? But if it doesn't connect back to them like really clearly, then they might just lose interest. But I mean, still good though, but just keep that in mind.
I do for you later down the line if you keep going down this road that you're in.
I just feel like what you said, like that hole, something's missing. Like I just don't feel like it would be something that would make me feel fulfilled or successful. Now I'm going to finish because that's who I am. I'm going to get the degree, but I just don't know if that's the base. So why not take it while I can? Why not take the step while I don't have all these responsibilities laying over me yet?
Yeah, no, I understand. Everyone's different, and yeah, that's fair. I understand. What was that moment, bro, that you were kind of, I know we're talking about the moment too, where like, oh, just that hole, right? We're just talking about that hole. When did you realize? What was that exact moment that you were like, oh man, I need a shift? Like something has to change. Like that hole is just too big.
Probably the week I had 4 midterms in the same.
Yeah, I would too. I question my whole life. Four midterms.
Not for me.
no, that's fair, bro. That's understandable, my brother. Why? So with that moment with the 4 midterms and everything, why? I know that there's probably like some other moments, that they were like pretty bad. But why was that the worst? What was so different about that moment, other than all those other times that you probably felt a similar way? What's different about that time for you?
I guess it's because I've had family members and like other people that are in the engineering field. I kind of have like an understanding of what they do in the actual work life, and like all the subjects that I was doing, like coding, I hate it. I can't stand it. I mean, I'm all right at it, but I can't sit there and do it. I just can't. And then I had a test for that, a test for probability, which you don't really. I mean, you need a little bit, but it's nothing major. And then signals. Signals was difficult because my professor was awful. Right. I mean, I don't even. He didn't really. It was kind of like the Disney Channel when they're just waving the wand at the board.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're watching Disney Channel. It's like, yeah, bro. I understand that feeling, bro. I see. Oh my gosh, I've had that moment too many times, bro. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And then just the subjects didn't line up. It's just, and it's just like,
someone's right. I'm telling you, bro. Someone's right. I'm telling you, bro. I had that same feeling when I was like, man, I was in for business, right? And I asked my teacher, he was writing on the board all this stuff about business. I'm like, hey, so you're in business. What type of business have you had? You know, he tells me, he's like, bro, I never had a business. And that was my Disney Channel moment. And I was like, oh, man, I gotta bounce. I pretended I went to the restroom, bro. I had it home, man. I had to rethink everything that whole day. I'm telling you, bro, same thing. So yeah, I understand that. That makes sense. Oh my gosh, bro. Okay, so yeah, no.
Okay, so that actually is wicked funny. When you get to school and you learn about business and you ask the professor if they have a business and they fucking don't. Yeah, that was believe me, I have 4 degrees. And once I started doing this when I was in my master's, I lost a ton of respect for a lot of the professors that were in there trying to talk about all this stuff, and it's just like, well, you've never actually done it though, so what the fuck do you know, right? That was funny though. I love the Disney Channel moment, all that, and all of that rapport, that conversation, even the laughs, all of that stuff, totally appropriate on a sales call, like really appropriate. So don't think like, oh, I broke character here because I'm with my buddy Blake and all that stuff. No. All that was still really good. All of this still absolutely flies on a sales call. Having that trust, having that rapport, being human, laughing, joking, connecting, totally cool. Totally cool.
I understand that and everything. That's what Disney Channel. Were you already looking into something, brother? Like, was there? How I was telling you, like, I looked into my first thing, bro. It was like real estate, e-commerce. Has there been something else before this that you were kind of looking into, like when it comes to the income?
No, I don't know. I've never really gotten anything like big. Like this is kind of like the first step of taking into sales.
Yeah.
So I didn't really look at anything. I looked at TikTok Shop, but that's all corny to me. So I don't know why.
Yeah, everybody's told me that before. Hey, try TikTok Shop. Well, man, I don't know.
That makes me feel weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I just I feel like my testosterone just drops as I every day. Somebody to sale. If I don't know. Yeah. No.
I actually for a couple of weeks I was on. I was stacking offers. So I was actually selling for a TikTok Shop offer, and I fucking hated it. I told them, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I went back to just doing my real estate one for a long time. But I stacked offers for a little bit just because I had the time and I wanted to really push and see how much extra bread I could do. But I hated the offer so much, dude. Yeah, low test. I'm like, TikTok Shop. The fuck is this? That's funny.
Yeah, exactly. I can't, bro. I don't know. It's not for me, bro. But there's a ton of vehicles, bro. There's a bunch of vehicles like that, and there's stocks, crypto, all that stuff. What was it about high ticket sales that you were just like, oh man, that's even better? Because like you said, right, this is the first thing that you kind of looked into. But why not? Why this one? Like high ticket sales and not drop shipping, e-commerce, TikTok Shop. Like, what was so different about high ticket sales that you're like, oh, that's
great job. Like the little mannerisms, very good.
Sexy,
Yeah.
I love that.
I mean, honestly, at first it's definitely the dollar value. Like you can get way more money for one sale. Why would you not try to get good at that? You don't have to do as much. I mean, you don't have to do as much, but like you don't have to make as many sales. And also, I was trying to look for like one-on-ones. I feel like when you're doing that, there's not a lot of camaraderie. It's just kind of you and you put out a product. And
yeah,
it kind of feels like a scam to me a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I understand how you feel that way.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense, brother. So why wouldn't you just try to figure this out by yourself? Because I know you see Ryan stuff. This kind of dry and everything. There's tons of resources and stuff like that. YouTube, there's ChatGPT. And everybody says that. Everybody's like ChatGPT. Just search it out ChatGPT, right? Why not try to do this on yourself, by yourself, like just on your own?
I just I don't know where to start, so I just figure like if I don't know where to start, how would I know like what to look up? Like how would I know what's good and what's not? Like how would I know that they're just not just trying to get me to believe something or just trying to put out a product? I kind of need like that. Let's go here. This is where you should go. Kind of like that leadership.
Yeah, kind of like a leadership. Yeah, leadership kind of sums it up pretty good. I see that's what you're kind of looking for, rather than like a little course or like, hey, here's the textbook, here's this and that. You more need like hey, this is the route, this is the structure, this is the first step, next step, here, there. So I understand how somebody leads you is a lot easier, right? So why do you trust me, brother, this system particularly to help you? What was it about like Ryan, our system? Because there's other guys like same thing, saying high ticket sales. Do you want to escape your 9 to 5? Like all that jazz, right? What's so different about us that you're like, man, I think these guys can help me out even more than the next.
I just feel like when I reached out, like the personal connection, I just kind of felt it right off the bat. Like when you're talking to them, it feels like a personal conversation. It's not like someone's trying to just sell you a product. Like it's like we're here, we're gonna book a call, we're gonna talk about it. Like that. Yeah. Me, it builds trust, and that's kind of like what scared me going into it. Was like salesmen, they're kind of like known for not being trustworthy. They're trying to get money off selling something to you. So
get you in, get you out.
Yeah,
straight up lies, and you would never even know about it.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people in the sales industry, there was a lot, bro. I'll tell you what, when I first got into car sales, I was a young chap, right? So I was 18 at the time. I was the exact same.
I can already tell you're going to use a great personal story here to overcome, that he didn't directly say it was, a limiting belief for him, right? Because he said that, my content seemed like the opposite of that, but that, even the fact that he mentioned it, you still have to pre-handle that objection of like scam, just trying to get your money, all that stuff, right? So you recognize that, even though he covered it and kind of handled it himself, he still brought it up. So you need to now pre-handle it. So I can tell you're going to, go on a personal story here to, acknowledge and resonate with what he's saying. Right. And you're going to reframe, his thought process here on how, that's not something that we believe in and all that stuff, right? I know that's what you're going to do. I can just tell. Something that I wanted to pause on was just all these slight little mannerisms that you do. It makes you entertaining. It makes you interesting. And it makes you seem like a real person, right? Like that joke where you were like, you like faked it a tie, right? And you're like, high ticket sales, escape your 9 to 5, right? Like those small things make such a difference, dude. And it's hard to coach those things because it's like, you don't know what someone's like little fun personal mannerisms are unless they just fucking show you. But you are very comfortable with yourself. I can tell you have a lot of internal confidence. So you're not afraid to, just throw those out there. Never stop doing that. That stuff matters a lot. So keep doing all of that.
Same thing. They're like, oh man, the solar guys are pretty bad. I'm like, man, it seems like we're all pretty bad because I was in car sales. I'm pretty sure Ryan was too. And they would scam people, not necessarily a scam, but they would hide the numbers. So when you're buying a car, for example, you would think that you're getting a good deal, but really they're hiding the numbers on the pencil. Or like it's just misguidance, right? They're only thinking about themselves. Now, they weren't too fond of me because I got sales, yes, but I was actually honest with my customers, bro. I told them straight out, like, hey, this might not be a good fit for you. Maybe you don't actually need, it was Mazda, so it's a little different, but you may not need this truck. Like if you're trying to like, you're hauling ass, right? You're not going to need a little SUV, and I'm not going to try to sell you if you don't need it, right? So there was guys who tried to sell people, that's like selling a guy in a wheelchair with no feet Nikes. It's like he's not going to need them.
He's not using them, bro.
He ain't going to use them, bro. Well, I'm telling him. So it's different. I understand how you feel that way. So why now, brother? Why not wait 6 months or like?
Yep. So great job pre-handling that objection, right? Because he covered it himself, right? But always pre-handle any little whiff of a limiting belief you get. Pre-handle it immediately. Do not move on until you do it. And so you did, and that was great. And you're spot on. Of course, car sales builds warriors out there on the lot. And there's a ton of stuff that they hide on the pencil. They really do, right? And so that scares a lot of people, right? But in this industry, that's just not how it works. You don't run the numbers with people. You know what I mean? So there's nothing to worry about when it comes to that, right? So great job pre-handling that. I love it.
A year down the line, Blake, like what's different? Why not wait that long?
I guess I'm just tired of feeling that way. I don't know. I don't really feel like waiting or feeling like this much longer. So I'd rather just take action and make a bet rather than just keep feeling and live with regret rather than I can live with fail.
Yeah. Regret stays with you. It's like a lingering feeling that stays with you for the rest of your life. Knowing like I said, you got your grandbaby on your lap and you're shaking him up and down. He's all asking you like, hey grandpa, have you ever tried? Why do we not have enough money? And you're like, you gotta tell him how you didn't take that action 10 years ago. It's tough, because they look up to you, right? I think the last thing you want to do is tell them on how you didn't even try. Right? Because what do you think that would put into your kid's mind or your grandbaby's? Right? They shouldn't try. So for you to be brave enough, and that's why they need you, Blake, to be brave enough to take that decision, they're going to look up to you and your actions, and they're going to follow. You talk about being a leader, brother. You are a leader, brother. I see the attributes and the characteristics because you're taking action now, brother. It's kind of like you go out to, you go outside and you kind of trip or fall, you get some rocks.
I'm going to keep letting you do this. I love what you're about to talk about, something about skinning your fucking knee. This is very high level, Nate. Very. And this is all, just a frame we're just taking, right? Because you understand the psychology behind what we're doing, right? And we're really focusing on actually helping Blake. And you understand that if you want to actually help Blake, you have to play into his character archetype. You have to do it, right? Or else he's not going to have enough trust. He's not going to think that you understand him enough to actually go with what you have. And that's exactly what we're doing, right? And so I love on this one, you brought it up again, and I love that example of, you didn't even say your kid. We extended the timeline even further. I don't know if you did that on purpose, but I paid attention to it. It went to grandson. So now it is essentially insinuating that he didn't take action even longer than the previous example. And in this one, you paused and you actually let him. You asked him. What does that mean? What example is that setting for them? What is that setting them to believe that, right? What? And, Blake was like that they shouldn't even try at all either. And it's just like, bingo, exactly. Right. So you let it land. Those bombs, let them land, right? Let that person process it. Now let's go into what other fun little analogy you're going to throw in there. Something about skid your knee. Let's see.
You just kind of skid your knee and it's kind of you're bleeding and stuff and it hurts real bad, right? But you don't ignore it, right? It hurts so bad that you're like, man, I got to slap some alcohol, some vodka on this thing, some mud, pee on it. So I got to do something. But it just hurts too bad. You got to address it, right? Because if you don't address it, what happens? You get an infection, you got to chop off your leg now, right? You don't need it to go that extreme, right? So it's better to address it at the moment and pee on it and then have it get infected and you got to chop it off, right? So it's kind of like that. So you're brave enough to even be addressing it right now, bro. Not everybody does it, right? So let's say this works out, Blake. What exactly?
So I love it. That pee on it, you got to, obviously that'll hit with Blake because Blake, he's very traditional, like guy, right? So that hits with him. I don't have to tell you what audience to use it for. I know you can read the room. But yeah, that was good. I liked it.
Kind of the way you want to say it.
Especially the aggressive approach of like, you turned a skin knee into we might have to chop off your leg. Great way to, talk about cost of inaction here, right? Because that's super important.
Works out exactly how you want. How much are you aiming to earn when it comes to monthly? Like, what are you looking at? Like, when you walked in here, you had a number in your head. You think about high ticket sales, you had a number in your head. What are you thinking about earning monthly?
For starters, I mean, like 1 to 3 would be fine, and then build on top of that.
That's fair. That's completely fair, because a lot of people are thinking like, oh man, why am I not getting into the 10K, 15K, 50K roles? Well, brother, you gotta get started, man. That's just how it is. So what's your timeline for hitting that? How do you think, how fast you want to hit that?
Probably like a month or so.
A month? Okay, well, that's completely doable. You can do that, definitely, especially with your mindset, and how eager you are to get to that next step, right? Because you gotta be committed, right? Would you consider yourself a committed person?
Yeah.
A committed man? Well, then you're perfect, brother.
You have a problem with procrastinating a lot. But...
Yeah, no, I understand. I was too. Trust me, brother. When I was in school, I was the last one. We get a project or an assignment, and I was the last minute guy. They called me last minute Nate, because I was every single time I'd ask him, hey, did you guys do the project? And I was turning in the last. But it didn't change until I met my good buddy, and he would kind of walk me through these things, and he would be like, hey, bro, you got to do them as soon as you get the assignment. So I'll tell you what, you help me out with this. I was helping out, with some home stuff, because my parents grew up with trades. My dad was a mechanic and all that stuff, so he needed some car help. His brother was flipping some cars, so he was helping me with homework. I was helping him with that. But the moral story is, I needed leadership. I didn't have that either. I didn't have an older brother telling me, hey, you got to move out, you got to do this, you got to do that. I had no guidance, right? So for me, what changed was that guidance. So, when you told me like, hey man, I just know sometimes, the procrastination, or sometimes I just don't even know where to go. I don't know where to look. Well, this is perfect, brother. This is what we can, that's something that we can help. Congratulations. That's something we can help you out with, right? Yeah. So fast forward, brother, let's say you hit 1 to 3K, Blake, kind of like 6 months, let's say 6 months, a month, 3K a month. What's the first thing you're doing, brother? Like, who's the first person you tell, or what would that do for you personally? Like, what would you do with it? That money?
Definitely my parents, being able to give back, taking the pressure off of them. That's a lot of why I do it. But yeah, be able to just do what I want also, I mean, it is mostly about family though. I would say it's mostly about giving back,
Well, everything's about giving back, brother. And when you say giving back, what exactly would you be giving back to your parents, your family?
Great job. Now that we're in future pace, it's like he already gave you a great example, but like dig deeper, more. I want more, right?
Everything that like all the finance that they had to put me through school, all the things, big house, stuff like that, payments they need to make.
Yeah.
Take some of the pressure off them, allow them to live a little bit, so they're caring for me so long.
Yeah, no, that's fair, brother. They I understand how you can say that, Blake, because they were most of their lives. Am I right? Mm-hmm. Is it? Yeah, they were both. It's kind of family drives us, and especially with all the things that they've done, the last thing they want to see or hear is, hey, you're wasting time. There's no money. Hey, son, we don't have enough money. Or hey, son, we're losing the house, or just whatever your situation is. Finances is universal, but everybody needs that. And same thing was for my case, right? My family, I had family. My dad was in debt, so I had to help him out. I had a baby on the way, and I was 20 years old, had a baby on the way, in debt. My dad's in debt. Everybody needs help, right? So that was a real eye opener for me, and I realized, hey, man, I can't mess up. I owe my dad, my parents, my family, like it's my duty as a man to provide for them. Because worst case scenario, who are they gonna look up to? Blake. They're gonna look at Blake. Blake, can you help us out? Blake, can you help us out? We're trying to put you in school so you can help us out, son. Can you help us out, please? Or the storms come, this and that, and if you don't got that rock as a foundation, Blake, if it's built, your house is built on sand, brother, you're gonna fall, and it'll be a great one, right? So that's smart of you to be thinking that way and kind of to protect your family and all that stuff, right? Because what can happen will happen, and when it does, you will be the one to be prepared when it does, right? So they look up to you. So that's a completely fair thing, but that's a completely fair thing to say. And what happens if nothing changes though? Let's say 5 years down the line and nothing.
Okay, so that was all stellar. I loved it, but again, same thing as before. Let those bombs drop, and cut that little kind of ramble we had there, right? And I don't say ramble is a bad way, it's just how I'm describing it. Cut it into like 3 parts and end each part with a question. Make sure you're letting the person process the bombs you're dropping on, right? Very, very important.
Nothing changes whatsoever.
When I get the head start, I probably end up in a spot I don't want to be in, and probably not happy, probably just stuck in, doing what everybody else does, and I don't see how I'd be happy doing that. So.
Yeah. You're like thinking about putting a shotgun in your mouth like every night, every shower. Yeah, bro, it'll get bad. It's just, I don't think it's necessarily the work that you're doing, because you seem like, you're a hard worker. I think it's just more of the mental side of it. Is it? You think that like knowing that you could do more, but you're not taking action? Yeah. That hole in your heart is sitting there like, oh man, I need to take action. But you're every day, by day, every midterm, every test, it just means nothing to you. It's almost like, there's no kind of like like doing something with no purpose, right? Essentially, no, you're running blind, Have you actually considered that? Like the actual like cost of staying where you're at right now? Have you ever thought about that? Like genuinely?
I think about it a lot. I don't think about it deeply, but I do think about it a lot. It pops up in my mind quite often. But I try to get it out of my mind and try to just do something about it rather than just dwell on it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand. Like,
I don't know if you have any homework to get done, but after your appointment tomorrow at 10, or my appointment, I got appointment at 1, but between 10 and or will you?
All right, so the first thing, right? I know you made like a joke about it, like shotgun in your mouth, whatever. That's fine, right? Because you have really good rapport with him. What I'm looking for here is on this next frame, being really, really serious about consequence. And you just did. I like that frame you took where you like, well, have you genuinely, really thought about that, right? Being deadly serious about consequence is very important. So let's see if we take that frame.
You're good, brother. Yeah, so I understand like you haven't really, you try to just throw it off and like, oh man, I just need to act, I need to do something about it. It's important. It's important, Blake, because when you don't, it's kind of like people are like, if you don't know, like people expect to grow like beside thin air, like poof, I'm gonna grow. If you don't address kind of what's stopping you, if you don't think about that stuff, you're not gonna realize how bad it actually is, brother. If you actually think, what happens if I don't? I'm gonna be in a job that I don't like. I'm gonna want to put a shotgun in my mouth every night, but I'm not, because I gotta wake up the next day and provide for mom and dad. you're gonna think about that stuff, and that's gonna really drive, because it is, right? Is that a feeling that you say you would be familiar with? Just kind of like it sits with you that, man, I need to do something else. Like it's about, like, it's kind of time. I can't be doing this. You go almost crazy. Like you're like being in the same. That's how I was. Brother. I would sit in every class, every midterm, every homework, every drive home. I would eat, sleep, breathe the feeling, brother. And it felt like I would take showers in every night. Instead of water, I was just taking showers in that feeling. I was like so bummed out. I'm like, God, bro, it was bad, man. And it was, but every time I tried to like kind of push it to the side and not do anything about it, bro, it just got even worse, right? It just got even worse. And you need to accept it. How do you expect to fix something if you don't know you have it, right? Or if you don't address it?
Yeah.
So it is important to even think about those things in the first place, right? So yeah, so that's completely fair. So whose decision is it? Like whose decision is it to change this, right? Like,
so what I would say is, and I know you both like had like outside things happen, but biggest thing for you is when we're talking about consequence, that's the time to get super serious about things, right? Especially when like you build this unbelievable rapport and trust, with the prospect throughout the entire call. You can take a very serious frame on consequence, and like they are going to take you so fucking serious, because they trust you so much and because you've built this insane rapport with them, throughout the entire call, that when we talk about consequence of inaction here, we want to get very serious about it. We don't want to make jokes about it. We want to really challenge their way of thinking there.
Whose decision is it?
It's gotta be up to me.
It's gotta be up to you, right? So before I walk you through kind of, what this looks like and everything, what would you need to see in the mentorship, brother? To know it's like kind of worth it. Do you need like a one-on-one, a community, real systems, that guidance, Ryan breathing over your neck, kind of helping you through, the assignments, your midterms, like, what do you need them to do? What do you need to see in the mentorship for you to be like, what? It's worth it.
I definitely like to see the one-on-one, like getting individualized help, like definitely walking through like the review of the modules too, like doing mock calls. I feel like that's something I would like to see and get to know about a little bit more.
Yeah, it's completely fair, brother, and we can absolutely do that for you, because that helps out, right? Would you consider yourself a one-on-one person or more like a group type person?
Definitely one-on-one, probably.
One-on-one, right? I don't know about you, but when I was in math class, when I was a young child, we would do everything in groups, right? I would never learn that way, so I had to do tutoring after because it would be on one-on-one, right? So that's fair, because if you're anything like that, you're definitely gonna be helped out a lot better. Ryan will be there, if Ryan has to pull up, do the midterms for you, and then just to get you back at home on the mock call, Ryan's that type of guy, brother. So you have that mentorship and you have that one-on-one with him in here. You're welcome here, brother. So is there anything else that you kind of want to make sure we include, or is that pretty much everything that you're like, what, I see it's worth it. It has everything I need. Is there anything else you want to include?
No, I think you're doing pretty good, man.
Cool, brother. Cool. Well, let's get you locked in, brother. It's going to be normally the law, 1,500. It'd be 1,500. Do you want to do that in payments, or do you want to do that in one go?
I probably have to do payments.
Okay, sounds fair. Let's go ahead and get that set up. Boom, 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 boom. That's it. Boom, boom, that's done. Cool. Yeehaw.
All right. So, really, really good. And so essentially what that was like the temp check, right? Of like, making sure what one last, final specifics on like what should you really, really highlight heavily based on, what they said matters to them, right? That's how you're going to highlight your pitch. So here, let me share this. Share this tab. Hopefully you can see this too. All right. So inside a classroom here, right? This is what I want you to focus on next. So check out the offer pitch template, right? So you would run through your whole setup, right? Everything that you went through, you do the temp check on what they need. And then you would essentially say, okay, let me walk you through exactly what we have to offer here, Blake, right? And then you would cover, whatever offer, if you're going to describe, this offer, right? Just pick, 1 to 3 to 5 pillars. Excuse me, not 1 to 3. Just always start with 1. That's what I meant, which is super obvious. But I'm saying always do it in a way where it's a 3-pillar setup or a 5-pillar setup, because that's the easiest way to explain something to someone, right? So check this out, okay? And I want you to add this in on your next call. And so, you would present it, right? Just give, a couple examples. Like pillar 1 could be like, okay, one-to-one mentorship, right? Pillar 2 could be like, full community, right? Of, people to do mock calls with, combined with, one-on-one mock call reviews, right? To get like direct coaching. And then pillar 3 could be like, a complete training library with like everything you need to know about sales, including all the scripts and frameworks to actually use, right? Pillar 4 would be like actual job placement. And then pillar 5 could be, I don't know, like direct one-on-one, like employment coaching, with our head employment coach, Charlie, whatever you want to say, just, make up some shit. The program well, so, but, make the pillars however you want. Right. And then as you list each pillar, you then tie it back into one of their pain points or their goals, right? So you say, okay, pillar 1 is, one-on-one mentorship, right? You just told me, you don't learn well in a group setting. We find a lot of people feel the exact same way. So we base things off of, the work that they put in, and then one-on-one feedback that they actually get, from Ryan to actually improve, not just listen to some lecture hall that doesn't necessarily apply to them. And then you want to say, does that make sense based on the goals that you're looking to achieve here, right? Or can you see yourself winning with that? Or do you feel like that actually solves the real problem, right? you want to tie everything in. Okay. And I know this honestly could be like here, to be honest with you, but whatever. Right. So do that with each pillar. And then you want to wrap the whole thing up in a bow. Right. People love 3 steps, right? So even if you did a 5 pillar, right, just wrap it up in like 3 simple steps, right? You would say, okay, so, just to cover everything again, the system that we operate here exists to do 3 very simple things for you, Blake. It's, one-on-one coaching to get you XYZ, right? It's, direct job placement to make sure that you can utilize the training and actually make money. And it's, a full community of like-minded people who, are on the same path as you, whatever you want to do, right? Does that align completely with what you want, right? And they're going to be like, yes, absolutely. And then get right into it. Okay. So the investment is 10K. The investment is 15K. The investment is 5K, whatever, right? That gives you full access to everything that we just talked about it. How would you like to proceed with that? Then say nothing, right? And so what I want you to do on your next call too, after you run through, this full offer pitch, after you, cover everything you just did, then what I want you to do is whether you go with Blake or someone else, ask them, say, hey, give me an objection or 2, right? After, I give you the price, okay? Have them pick, I need to think about it. I don't have the money right now. I have to talk to my partner, right? Any of those, or, let me think about it. It's too expensive. I need to talk to my partner. Now's not the right time. Can you send me more info? Whatever. Pick any of those, okay? And then use some of these reframes and some of these analogies to, give you some word tracks, and then go, just as you do in the call, go freestyle crazy with your own, analogies, your own reframes, right? And just tie it back to specific things that they talked about, in the call. That's how you're going to be able to cover every objection. The more specific you can make these reframes and analogies to what they already told you in the call, that's how you really overcome it. But these are some great frameworks for you to just be able to follow. That's pretty much like the full setup for you there, right? So let's share this again. Hopefully that transferred over and you can see everything that I was talking about. If not, I'll go and rewatch this and make sure that you can. And if not, I'll make another link video for you. But yeah, no. So here's the thing, Nate. You're ready right now. I would say, you can send this call as a mock call to, offer owners now. This was very, very high level, man. It's because you already have previous sales experience. You're ready. You could close right now, bro. Right now. I don't have a single doubt about it. There are some things that, you need to work on, right? Like cutting yourself off a little bit, right? Letting some of those bombs land. But overall, you could, you absolutely could be closing deals right now, brother. I would really, I would get on it. I want you to get that next mock call in, start to finish. Let's get a full offer pitch, and then let's see you handle some objections as well. And that then having a full setup there, that would be a really good mock call that you could be sending out and putting on your profile for companies to check out, because you got some really, really good, shit here, man. I really, really like this. And you're in a super, super strong position here. So excited for you to watch this, check out this feedback. Spam me. I want you to send me a bunch of messages, everything that, I covered. Give me some of your thoughts on things, where you are, right? And we can talk about some next steps. But I really want you to start pushing for some employment opportunities here, man, because you're definitely in a really strong position, brother. So super proud of you, dude. Keep up the great work, man. I'm going to keep giving you harder and harder feedback as we keep going, because you're already pretty lethal now. I want to get you to the point where you're like a total killer. So check this out. Let me know your thoughts, bro. But again, super proud of you, man. Keep up the great work.